It's been a wild ride for anyone following the market lately, hasn't it? Early 2025, and already we're seeing some serious jitters.
Yeah, those recession worries and trade tensions everyone's talking about, those definitely haven't helped.
Look at the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones. Both have taken some big hits. The S&P even dipped into correction territory, which always gets people nervous.
For sure. And with the economy potentially slowing down, companies revising their earnings downwards, and the whole tariff thing rearing its head again.
Well, it's enough to make anyone wonder where things are headed, right? What are investors supposed to make of all this? Where are the bright spots, if any?
It is a really tricky landscape to navigate right now, that's for sure. Especially if you're trying to find those pockets of growth amidst all the uncertainty.
And that's what makes what we're talking about today so interesting, I think. You pointed out something in your notes about the tech sector, specifically quantum computing.
Right. While a lot of stocks have been struggling, there's one company, D-Wave Quantum, ticker QBTS, that's been doing something really remarkable.
They really have. I mean, their stock just surged, closing at $9.69 on March 14th. We're talking a 40.3% increase in a single day.
It's pretty eye-catching, especially given the broader market context.
Hmm.
To see that kind of jump suggests something pretty compelling is happening under the hood.
Definitely. So that's what we're going to unpack today. We want to understand what's driving this incredible performance and what it might mean for investors like you who are trying to stay ahead of the curve. Where should we start?
Well, their recent fourth quarter earnings for 2024 are a good place, I think. Those numbers give us some real clues about their future revenue potential.
Oh, absolutely. Their bookings for the full fiscal year were impressive, right? $23.9 million, a 128% increase year over year. That's not small potatoes.
Not at all. But the fourth quarter itself was even more striking. Bookings for that period alone reached $18.3 million, a whopping 502% jump.
502%. That's not just growth. That's like an explosion of demand. Now, for our listeners who might not be familiar with this, why are booking such an important metric to focus on?
Think of bookings as a forward-looking indicator. They represent future contracted revenue, a pipeline of secured business that will eventually turn into actual revenue down the line. So that massive increase, it points to a real and growing hunger for their quantum computing solutions.
And alongside those strong earnings, D-Wave also made a pretty big announcement, didn't they? They claim to have achieved quantum supremacy in a real-world materials simulation.
This is a big deal in the quantum computing world. It essentially means their quantum computer solved a problem that would be virtually impossible for even the most powerful traditional supercomputers to solve within a practical time frame.
Wow. So does this mean that quantum computing is finally moving out of the theoretical realm and into the real world? What are the implications for, well, everyday people?
It's certainly a significant step in that direction. It suggests that quantum computers are no longer just a fascinating scientific concept, but are becoming powerful tools that can tackle real-world problems in fields like materials science, drug discovery, and who knows what else.
It's mind-boggling to think about the possibilities. And this wasn't just an internal claim either. Their research was published in a peer-reviewed science journal, which adds a whole other level of legitimacy to it.
It does. Publication in such a prestigious journal is like getting a stamp of approval from the scientific community. It's a strong validation of their technological capabilities and adds a lot of weight to their claims.
So strong earnings, groundbreaking scientific achievements,
Yeah.
it's all pretty exciting. But this surge in demand probably isn't just happening out of the blue, right? What about their technology itself? What role is that playing?
Well, their Advantage 2 processor is definitely a factor. Its enhanced capabilities are likely driving a lot of that demand.
Tell us a bit more about that. What makes this processor so special?
It boasts over 4,400 qubits, which is a significant leap in computational power compared to their previous processors. For our listeners, more qubits basically mean the ability to solve bigger, more complex, and more commercially relevant problems.
Got it. So we have potential future revenue from those strong bookings. We have a potentially game-changing technological achievement. How about their overall financial health? Are they on solid ground?
From a financial perspective, things look pretty good. They have a strong cash position exceeding $300 million. This gives them a nice cushion.
It does. What's the significance of that for investors?
It means they're less likely to need to raise additional capital through issuing more stock in the near future, which can sometimes dilute the value of existing shares. So for investors, that's a reassuring sign.
It is. Now let's talk about their stock performance and all that trading activity.
Hmm.
We already mentioned that impressive 40% jump on March 14th, but that wasn't just a one-off, was it? There seems to be a lot of interest in this stock.
Not at all. On that day, we saw over 105 million shares traded, which is significantly higher than their average trading volume of 84 million. This suggests a lot of conviction among investors who are buying and selling those shares.
Right, and even before this recent surge, the stock had rallied by an incredible 218% over the past year. It's down about 18% year to date, but that's likely reflecting the broader market anxieties earlier in the year. This recent jump, however, seems to indicate a real shift in sentiment, specifically towards D-Wave, driven by all this positive news.
It does, and that longer-term trend, that 218% rally, that points to some serious underlying strength and a growing belief in the company's potential.
Absolutely. So it's not just individual investors taking notice. What are the analysts saying about D-Wave?
Well, analyst sentiment has become very bullish. Roth MKM, for instance, recently raised their price target to $10, and the median 12-month price target from Wall Street analysts sits at $8.50. Both of these suggest that there is still room for the stock to appreciate further.
That's always good to hear.
Yeah.
Is there a general consensus among analysts about the stock?
There is, actually. All 5 analysts currently covering the stock rate as a strong buy. For investors, this kind of unanimous positive sentiment can be a strong signal, though of course it's always important to do your own research and due diligence before making any investment decisions.
For sure. It sounds like there's a lot of excitement surrounding D-Wave, not just from a financial and technological standpoint, but also from the industry itself.
Definitely. And their strategic partnerships really highlight the growing real-world applications of their technology.
Can you give us some examples?
Sure. Look at their collaboration with NTT Docomo, which is focused on using quantum computing at a production scale, or their planned integration with a Jülich supercomputer. These are real-world examples of how their technology is being adopted and incorporated into existing infrastructure.
So lots of positive developments fueling this upward momentum. But as with anything in the market, it's important to keep a balanced perspective, right? What are some of the challenges or areas where investors should still proceed with caution?
That's a crucial point. While the bookings are incredibly promising, their actual Q4 revenue was flat year over year at $2.24 million.
Did that miss expectations?
It did, actually. Some analysts had projected higher revenue figures, and their net losses have actually widened. Their adjusted earnings per share came in at -0 or 6 cents compared to -$0.10 for the same period last year.
So even though their future revenue pipeline looks very robust based on those bookings, they're still working on turning those contracts into actual revenue and, importantly, achieving profitability in the here and now.
Right. And for investors, it's essential to understand this time lag between bookings and realized revenue. There's always execution risk involved in converting those contracts into actual cash flow.
Absolutely. It's not just about the potential. It's about delivering on that potential.
Right.
Now, let's get a bit more technical for a moment. That 40.30% single-day jump to $9.69, that was a big move. What can you tell us about what the charts are showing?
It was a significant move, no doubt. If we look at their 52-week range, the stock is traded between 75 cents and $11.41. That tells you something about its volatility right there.
It does. So what's the current picture?
The recent surge pushed the price above its 50-day simple moving average, which was hovering around $7.50. That's a signal of strong short-term bullish momentum, and right now it's testing resistance near its 52-week high of $11.41.
What should investors take away from that?
Well, these technical levels can be helpful markers to watch for potential entry or exit points. But it's crucial to remember that technical analysis shouldn't be the sole basis for making investment decisions.
Right. It's one piece of the puzzle. What about some of the other technical indicators investors often look at? What are those telling us?
The Relative Strength Index, or RSI, is likely showing an overbought condition right now, probably somewhere in the 75 to 80 range.
And what does that signify?
It suggests the stock might have risen too quickly and could experience a pullback or some consolidation in the near term.
Interesting. So are there any support or resistance levels we should be aware of?
Yes, we're seeing potential support levels around $8.50 and $7.50. Those might act as price floors if the stock does decline. And resistance levels are around $10 and then that $11.41 high.
Good to know. So for someone who's considering investing in QBTS right now, what are the key takeaways? What should they be thinking about?
Well, it's definitely a high growth opportunity, but like any investment, it comes with risks, especially in this case, because a lot of their valuation is based on future revenue that hasn't materialized yet.
Right, and they're not profitable yet either.
Exactly. So it's probably better suited for investors who have a higher risk tolerance and are comfortable with more speculative investments. It's crucial to really assess your own risk appetite before jumping into a stock like this.
Good advice. Are there any upcoming events or catalysts that could potentially impact the stock? Things investors should have on their radar.
Yes, the upcoming NVIDIA Quantum Day could be one to watch. NVIDIA is a major player in the tech space, and any positive announcements or increased focus on quantum computing from them could generate renewed interest in the sector and benefit companies like D-Wave.
That makes sense. And of course, we can't forget about the bigger picture. All those concerns about a potential recession and the ongoing trade disputes, those could still have a significant impact, even on a high-growth sector like quantum computing.
Absolutely. Macroeconomic factors can exert a lot of pressure on the entire market. Even companies with strong growth potential, like D-Wave, wouldn't be completely immune to those broader trends.
So let's bring it all together. What are the main points you want our listeners to remember about D-Wave's recent performance and what the future might hold for them?
I think the key takeaways are they have exceptionally strong bookings, which point to a very promising future revenue pipeline. They've made a significant and potentially game-changing claim of achieving quantum supremacy, which really validates their technology. And they have a solid financial foundation with a healthy cash position. But it's equally important to acknowledge that they're still working on turning all that potential into actual revenue and ultimately becoming profitable.
Right, so it's a bit of a wait-and-see situation, but a very exciting one nonetheless.
Yeah.
QBTS is showing some real promise, especially in a market that's been, well, a bit shaky lately. But their inherent volatility and the fact that they still need to convert those future promises into concrete results, those are important considerations for any potential investor.
I agree. The potential for big gains is certainly there, but so is the risk. So, doing your homework, understanding the company, the technology, and the market, and being honest with yourself about your own investment goals and risk tolerance, those are all critical.
Excellent points. Now, here's something for everyone listening to ponder. Given the incredibly rapid advancements we're seeing in quantum computing and the current state of the global economy,
Yeah.
what role do you think companies like D-Wave might ultimately play in shaping not just the technological landscape, but the economic one as well? And what are the broader implications of achieving quantum supremacy in tackling real-world scientific problems? That's a lot to think about.
It really is. It makes you wonder what the future holds, doesn't it? How will this technology reshape industries, solve problems we haven't even imagined yet, and ultimately change the way we live and work? It's a fascinating time to be following this space.
It is. And if you're as intrigued by all this as we are, and you want to continue exploring these dynamic areas of investing with us, please hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and leave a comment below. We love hearing from you. Thanks for joining us today.